well, I don't hear too good. I messed up my hearing at a Santana concert.
Welcome back to Red Recapped. Today, I'm gonna break down a 2012 action flick titled Badass. Brace yourselves for some spoilers. Watch out and take care.
Okay, whoa, wait a minute, man, calm down.
So, Frank Vega, a decorated Vietnam War vet, had one tough life. While he was off fighting for his country, his girlfriend went and married someone else, even had 2 kids. He couldn't land a job anywhere and wound up slinging hot dogs for most of his days. That is until a hot dog van rolled in and swiped his customers. From there, Frank hit the road, living life as a drifter. But one day, he's had enough. He stands up to 2 skinhead thugs who've been tormenting everyone on a bus and trying to rough up another old man. Some bystander records the whole thing and tosses it up on YouTube. Suddenly, Frank's an internet sensation, earning himself the nickname Badass. People are all about him, making t-shirts and graffiti with his face, cops even give him ride-alongs, and he winds up on talk shows. Now, fast forward 3 months, Frank's mother, Juanita, sadly passes away, leaving him her house and dog. Frank's closest buddy and fellow Vietnam vet, Klondike Washington, moves in with him, passing along a USB flash drive containing vital info about his late mother's safe deposit box. Tragically, Klondike heads out one night for cigarettes and gets brutally murdered in a dark alley by 2 thugs. It leaves Frank utterly shattered. Around this time, Frank meets a young lad named Martin, who lives next door with his mom, Amber Lamps, and an abusive father, Martin Sr. Officer Malark tries to reassure Frank that the police are on the case, but as Frank watches the news and sees another murder solved much quicker, he realizes the authorities aren't putting in much effort into Klondike's case. Fed up with the lack of progress, Frank decides to take matters into his own hands. He begins his own investigation in the alley where Klondike was killed, discovering a spent cartridge casing and a pendant with a woman's photo in it. Frank takes these items to a pawn shop, where the owner identifies them as belonging to a guy named Terrence, whose wife's picture is in the pendant. After returning the pendant to Terrence's wife, Frank inquires about Terrence's whereabouts. She informs him that he hasn't been home in about a week. Her friend had mentioned seeing Terrence playing basketball with his buddies at a street park. Frank decides to confront some of Terrence's friends.
Appreciate your cooperation, all of you.
Which leads him to a guy named Ronaldo. Frank heads over to Ronaldo's apartment and meets his roommate, who reveals that Ronaldo is hanging out at a bar across town. In classic Frank style, he deals with some unruly bar patrons before getting the lowdown from Ronaldo, who spills the beans that Terrence is with his girlfriend. Frank tracks her down at a massage parlor, but she's not exactly cooperative. So, after her shift, he tails her. Taking things to the extreme, Frank breaks into her home, where he finally finds Terrence. In a desperate attempt to extract information about who ordered Klondike's murder, Frank resorts to gruesome tactics, forcing Terrence's hand into the kitchen's garbage disposal. Terrence spills the beans, revealing that Klondike was offed by a drug lord named Panther, all because of that flash drive he was carrying, which contained top-secret plans for oil wells in the neighborhood, backed by none other than Mayor Williams. But before Frank goes after Panther, he steps in to rescue Amber and Martin from their abusive husband, becoming their trusted neighborhood ally in the process. Amber extends an invitation for Frank to join them for a homemade meal, and Frank gets all spruced up for the occasion. During dinner, Frank musters the courage to ask Amber for a matchbook as a keepsake, and she gladly obliges. They're just about to share a kiss when young Martin Jr. walks in, putting a halt to their moment. Frank insists that Amber and Martin crash at his place until he can fix her front door. The following day, Frank hands over the flash drive to Officer Malark and tracks down Panther at his hideout. However, things take a brutal turn when he's knocked unconscious, captured, and subjected to torture in a bid to reveal the flash drive's whereabouts, with an electrocution device in the mix. Despite enduring multiple shocks, reminiscent of his time in Vietnam, Frank adamantly refuses to give up the flash drive. Panther, growing more desperate, seizes Frank's wallet, discovers his address, and becomes convinced that Frank is hiding not just the flash drive but a loved one at his home. Frank keeps insisting there's nothing to find, and Panther leaves his henchmen to continue the torment. In a dramatic turn of events, Frank manages to break free from his restraints and uses the matchbook he got from Amber to ignite some oil drums stored in the room, setting the building ablaze and causing explosions. Panther escapes, but Frank hot on his heels. They both hijack buses, engaging in a wild duel that leaves a trail of destruction in their wake, ultimately wrecking both buses. As the chase continues on foot, Frank encounters the 2 skinhead thugs he had confronted on the bus earlier. They attempt to regain their lost pride by recording themselves beating up Frank on their cell phone, but Frank prevails once again and resumes his pursuit. Panther eventually reaches Frank's house, finds Amber, and threatens her to get the flash drive. But just in the nick of time, Frank arrives to intervene. The brawl escalates onto the front yard, and when it seems Panther is about to make another move on Frank, Amber jumps onto his back, buying Frank enough time to get back on his feet and pummel Panther senseless. Panther ends up behind bars, and Mayor Williams faces arrest as well when his involvement in Panther's shady dealings hits the news. For his heroic actions, Frank Vega receives a bravery award from the police. Frank, Amber, and Martin go on to live happily ever after. That's all from the video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more content like this.